Broadcasting live, this is the Handicappers Report. Brought to you by the Clubhouse Racebook, 711 Central Avenue, Albany, and CapitalOTBBet.com, the premier online wagering site in New York State. CapitalOTBBet.com. Sign up today.
The Handicappers Report alongside Seth Merrow. I am Anthony Mormino, and in a funny way, well, not a funny way, but summer is over. Not technically for a few more days, and if you're in Southern California Thursday night, it's certainly not over. I'm sure there are other warm parts, but I don't like to be sweating in my seat at a sporting event, but we were on Thursday night. But back in the studio for the autumn run up to the Breeders' Cup, which used to be a scintillating time of year, Seth. We certainly grew up when Belmont was the fall championship meet before the Breeders' Cup, and then about 6 or 7 years into the Breeders' Cup, most racetracks ended up having Belmont led the way in '92 with Super Saturdays. And 30 years later, we've sort of evolved that this is besides two-year-olds still seem to, because they're developing, but for the other divisions, it's a different time of year than it was
Super
just
Saturday
10 years.
was Travers Day.
It does appear that. You know, I think on the last couple of shows we mentioned that I think Dave Grenning had reported that of the people he talked to out of the Grade 1 races on Travers Day, that Malathat was the only one that he thought that he had heard from the trainer, in this case Todd Pletcher, was strongly seeing another race before the Breeders' Cup. And you know, what are we going to do? You know, I said to you before, you know, it was one time I wish I had clearly been wrong, and unfortunately it seems as if Saratoga has become the jumping off point for the Breeders' Cup, which is great for us when we do that, but it makes this a quiet period. It used to be like every weekend until 2 weeks out from the Breeders' Cup, there was a division that had a frontline type of race. We were talking before we came on the air. Next Saturday at Woodbine is one of their two big autumn days, and it would be Woodbine Mile Day, which was a huge race leading up to the mile. But the times are changing. Dylan rode nearly 60 years ago, so there you have it.
Yeah, I got back in here yesterday, kicked things off with OTB Live, kind of a twilight edition. Yesterday, we looked at a little Woodbine early, and then we had the 5 o'clock post for Saratoga Harness and the 6 o'clock at Del Mar, so I covered the early races at those tracks too. Del Mar wrapping up this weekend. Kentucky Downs, I'll take a look at a little Kentucky Downs, but there's 3 more cards, Kentucky Downs, and so plenty of action, but again, coming back in yesterday and kicking things off, say it every year, it doesn't take but a few days to think, man, Saratoga was a long time ago. you get a week or two away, and it really seems like it was in the rear view mirror, but wrapped it up, and as I said yesterday, we stepped back in the studio for the next 10 months as the countdown has begun.
A lot of Aqueduct going to be in your front windshield.
Yeah, which kicks off Thursday. Belmont at Aqueduct kicking off on Thursday.
I'm going to be interested to see, you might remember, what designation the form's going to use. Because when Oak Tree ran at Santa Anita, they used to put OSA. When Betfair took over Hollywood, they have a way of, and when Oak Tree went up to Pleasanton, my point is I never liked it. I hope it's AQU and that's it. But the Daily Racing Form has used other letters when things such similar to this have occurred. So yes, and there must be
the Oak Tree
value
thing,
in
though.
Why are they marketing it Belmont at Aqueduct? It's just Aqueduct. Here we are. We're at Aqueduct. Just run the races.
The Oak Tree thing, though, was kind of an ownership thing, right? Too.
Well,
I mean, it wasn't just
the California Horsemen leased the track from the owner.
So that is a little bit different than what's happening down in New York, you would think.
Yeah, just call it Aqueduct. I'm really hoping it's just AQU going forward. Trying to think when Monmouth runs at Meadowlands, I think it comes in MED, not MTH. They call it, right? They call it Monmouth at the Meadowlands,
yeah.
right? But I think it comes in the Meadowlands, which
Yeah.
is makes sense to me. So,
But I mean, I think I'm guessing it's branded that way to make it a separate season. So jock titles and owners titles and all that kind of thing.
like the winter dirt meet, they never stop running at Aqueduct, but it changes meets.
Somehow.
If you see this is they can't see it. It's the Royal Palm meet at Gulfstream, and I'm betting $1. The next one is the Tropical Park meet, and then it will be the Champions meet, and we'll still all be there. A couple quick things on closing day. First off, the agony. I didn't beat the meet. It was just, but how's this, Seth? The last 3 races, I run second in all 3.
Oh, I saw you had. I wasn't keeping track of all of them, but I saw you were. That's yeah.
And
that's
now here's
brutal.
the thing: when at first glance I was like, darn. But then I did the mutuals. If all now this
It would have been like 10 cents away.
20 cents. If all 3 had won, and I said to my wife, I'm glad they all lost because I would have been.
Oh yeah.
It would have. Whatever the next rung before
that would have been bad.
Crushing Your Soul is, that's where I would have been. But because at first glance I was like, oh no, I have to be out. That's 5 winners today. I gotta get and I'm thinking, and I did the math because once the charts were put up, you could tell what you would have paid, and I was like 20 cents off, and I'm like, I feel a lot better. And just a couple things, we talked about it. We don't talk about it again, but. In my opinion, Vic of the Post won the meet, and I didn't do everybody's ROI, but I did the guys at the Saratoga.
Did he beat?
Well, he didn't beat it. He missed it by like $4. Okay. He was right at it. He had. I don't know about his whole last week. I had a miserable last week. It's embarrassing what my chart of it's. I mean, and this is what I also know, and this is the one thing I take pride in myself doing. If the last week I had played the morning line favorite in every race, we beat the meet. But I would have felt about that tall doing that. That would have crushed my soul to take. And my best friend was like, you got to do this. He's with me Sunday night after the Travers. He's like, he goes, you just play the chalk the rest of the meet. I said, I'm not going to do that. So we lost. But I think we finished second. The combination of Mike and me, Mike did Wednesdays. I did all the other days. We finished second on return on investment. And we beat the handicap winner with far fewer winners. John Shapazian.
Oh, okay. All right.
Which was remarkable. And Andrew Champagne, I saw you made the correction for Andrew. And he made the quick, I give him credit because he's like, and poor little Andrew will not be computing the ROIs on the people who don't report them. And I did the ROIs for all the people at Saratoga Special. It didn't take as long as he made it sound, but if you do it every day, it takes like 45 seconds. So I want to congratulate Mike because he did great on his Wednesdays, and the bottom line is I'm proud of that work. But 20 cents, I would have been tearful. That would have been. I would have been.
That would have been bad.
Oh. The breakage. It's all the breakage. But we did. We were. If you've ever heard the other line for public handicappers, beating the meet is Mount Everest. I think Kilimanjaro is beating the takeout, and we beat the takeout pretty comfortably. I've heard. Yeah, people have started to talk about that for years. Public hand. And I think that bar is a little bit too low, but it's a reasonable mathematical thing. So you need north of $1.70 to beat the takeout because the takeout's 15% on win, place, and show. So Mike did a great job. I think I didn't do Mike's, but I know what mine was. I think he had only the 6 days, but I think he finished on the plus side. He brought up the team. But yeah, I was watching it, and I kind of had lost faith by about the 5th or 6th race. But then it just kicked me on the way out the door. I'm like, don't run second anymore. And then I knew it wasn't mathematically possible when I got to the hopeful because I had Gulfport, and he was only going to be even money, and I knew I wasn't looking at a 12-1 shot in the last race. And the other thing I wasn't going to do was play all 12-1 shots out the door and try. And I told you I was going to play it on the square, and I lost. That's how it goes. So
I got ice cold the last 2 weeks of the
2
meet,
weeks, yeah, you
and,
can't.
And the I might have mentioned it here. The last Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, I had 3 winners on top total those 3 days, and 12 of my second picks won, and it was just that was so frustrating the last week.
I did only take the bagel the one day though, that July 17th, early in the meet. But I only had one winner on like 3 days of the last 6. It just carried me down. It just erased the work. And one of the things about the ROI does, that kills you, that you almost can't make it up, versus flat winners you can pretty easily. You can't, unless you play it, you just choose all the bombs and you hope 1 or 2. It's not what you're really doing. It's hard to make, when you fall behind, it's hard to catch up on the ROI. Like I said, I think it was on day 25, we were ahead of it. And I said, this is a long way to go to get to the end as a public handicapper. But, and I'm only mentioning, this is the first time I ever did it. This is the first time I ever, in a public forum, was available every day. So, good job. We did, I think you won the TU. I think you won the TU for winners on top, and I won the TU for money by, well, good. And
won the battle,
Capital
the
OTB won.
trifecta.
Yeah, we won. We had that wrapped up with I think 11 days out. We had a good start.
Yeah.
You, me, and Mike had a good
I
start.
had 6 on top the last day.
Yes.
So I kind of, and then I don't know, Friday or Saturday I had another 6, I think. So not Friday. It wasn't Friday because Friday was one of those. So it had to be Saturday. Saturday and Monday I had a couple of decent days that pulled me out that last couple of weeks, because other than that it was kind of brutal. But yeah, it came down. Anthony Affronti on the number of winners was kind of chasing me a little bit. On the money one, he was chasing you a little bit.
Now here's the thing. This is a great point. He really, it is hard to catch up on the money. It's just hard. But he was able to. He could have gotten to you. I saw we were basically between $50 and $70 apart for the last 10 or 12 days. It's just hard unless you get like a $40 winner, I guess. But not too many public handicappers get them. But so it was fun. I'm glad we won. So that's like at least 2 in a row for Capital OTB against the TU, because we beat them last year. I think it's 3 out of 4.
I would say, yeah.
So I think it's been about 5 years. I think it's 3-2 Capital. I think we lead.
That sounds right.
Yeah. The one year
they closed a little bit, because
they did close. It was.
I will give them credit for that.
Yeah, they did.
I'll
bet the last 10, 12 days was probably 50-50.
We just sewed it away.
Oh yeah.
Fairly, with 11 days left.
We were up 12 with 11 to go, because I did the TV show. It's like a golf score and match play, 12 and 11. Well, my wife said, "What do you mean?" I go, "We're up 12. There's only 11 to play. We've closed out the match." So.
But they made a little run there late to kind of close the gap.
Ready for Del Mar and Kentucky Downs?
Yeah.
We got to figure this out. There's no plays of the day. There's no. Oh, I saw the picture. You in shorts on Broadway with the good folks. We want to thank them for their sponsorship of the Handicappers Report.
The Dark Horse Mercantile, which that worked out very nicely.
You go on Twitter, you can see Seth and 3 women. I trust they're all involved.
Kim Weir from the TRF and
that's right.
Marianne Barker and Maddie from the Dark Horse Mercantile. And Kim has the big check for the donation
I saw that,
to the Thoroughbred Retirement Fund.
Now,
So we took a picture out in front of the Dark Horse Mercantile. But yeah, the Dark Horse play of the day worked out nicely. And again, I had passed the break-even point there sometime going into the last week. And the last I wanted to get Nobilis in the winner's circle for the last one, and wound up second. So put a little money into it, because Dark Horse is playing a Win Play show on the Dark Horse every day, and that was getting donated to the TRF, and then they added a little bit of money to that to kind of round it up for the big check as well. So thanks again to the folks at Dark Horse for sponsoring and for the donation to the TRF afterwards. That was fun too every day.
And how about Johnny I out the door at Saratoga with the little tip of the hat to Tom Durkin.
Was
pretty classy.
Yeah. Splash-tastic.
Yep. We'll do Del Mar first. They have 11 races today. A very good card as they are wrapping up their 2022 summer meet. Excuse me. Remember, they run the Bing Crosby meet in the autumn.
I didn't see, and I'll pull it up because I don't know if you know, but while you're talking, I'll pull it up. Yesterday they were off the turf because there was like a crazy storm.
Yes.
But yesterday, when I was in here watching the early races, it seemed all right. But they were already off the turf, so I don't know whether the storm already went through, because it seemed like they were saying Friday and Saturday when I first looked.
Well, I got back from California. Matter of fact, the young man I'm watching the games with, he's like, he didn't know what to do Friday. I'm like, go down to Del Mar. They're racing. He goes, I thought they're done. I go, no, they're done. I thought they were done too. They're not. Go down. So they had I want to say the first off the turf races since like 18 or something. It's been a long time because obviously they have very good weather. But
I just pulled it up.
4 races, I think.
They're showing a little rain cloud there, but when you look at the actual precipitation, it tops out at about 3 o'clock at 34%. So I don't think it's, I don't think it's a major.
And they have those Breeders' Cup prep races today, the juvenile turf. You got to think that they got the John C. maybe. I mean, they're going to, I think, go with the...
Which may have been, as I say, it seemed like looking at it looked okay yesterday, but maybe with a little moisture in it and the big races today, maybe they were just
Then you always wonder if it's like
protecting
the
a
old
little bit.
story, like when someplace in North Carolina gets snow and they're paralyzed. I'm like, well, they don't have any equipment. They're just not prepared. I'm like, are you not prepared for rain in Southern California?
Well, like snow in Arkansas. I've been
Yeah,
down
yeah.
there,
And I will say this. I mean, the turf does look a little rough.
Oh, well.
We're at the end.
And I'm just looking, because I pulled up, so I could intro your races, I pulled
Okay.
up Equibase, and they have a nice little graphic here at the side if people are interested. Complimentary premium PPs, courtesy of Kentucky Downs, over at for the next, the 10th and 11th.
Tremendous
so
job
you can
for for just Kentucky.
Just Kentucky Downs, it looks like.
That's tremendous.
But you can
Well,
pull up
that's-
some free PPs
it's like
at
free
Equibase.
$20.
Yeah.
That's a good
Pull up
job.
some free PPs at Equibase for Kentucky Downs. And I'll look at Kentucky Downs a little bit later, but we'll kick things off with the opener on this Saturday afternoon at Del Mar. We are looking at a starter allowance, and they'll travel 6 furlongs.
685, ladies and gentlemen, trying to stay on the beam at Del Mar, where I did the final 4 Saturdays for Capital Off-Track Betting, and it worked out. So we'll take multiple platinum for Steve Maiotti. They take blinkers off. Horse was claimed for $40,000. This horse in 3 starts has run with blinkers and has shown very good speed. This is a sharp barn, so I'm thinking the horse has displayed the mental capabilities and the early speed. We're on the outside for the Austrian Run Happy. Edwin Maldonado back aboard. I'll take multiple platinum, number 6 on top. For a second, the outside horse, Morrow goes out for Doug O'Neill. This is first off the claim of $32,000. Doug O'Neill's at 18% first off the claim runner. Almost put this horse on top. It's the same 3-1 morning line co-second choice because the favorite is my third choice. Number 5 going out for Mike McCarthy. Had a good second recently at this level, going 7, shortens up to 6. 6.85 in the opener.
All right, we'll move on to race number 2. We're looking at $18,000 to $20,000 claimers. They will go 3/4 of a mile.
And I am 7-4-6, and Kyle Frey is aboard my top pick, number 7, Square Deal, who's been popular at the claim box. Now, claimed recently for $16,000 from Jonathan Wong, who we'll touch on later on in the meet. But if you don't follow Del Mar or Southern California racing, this person has had an outstanding summer meet. When you're running into some of these heavy hitters, and I think he's nearly 20 victories. I'll get to him later, but this is a claim from a sharp barn. The claim was August 19th, was a beaten favorite, draws the outside post. For second, number 4, Established. Jonathan Wong's runner here. He claims for $32,000. Joe Bravo gets the mount. 2 for 4 lifetime at Del Mar. I make Established the horse to beat, and for third, number 6, Tis Hot and Dusty. Sounds like a martini. Comes off a third place finish. Third start in the cycle today. 7-4-6.
Race number 3. It's an allowance optional claiming event. They're on the turf, scheduled on the turf at 5 furlongs.
Yes, and as Seth pointed out, it's a big day on the turf. And we kind of saw that. I mean, the closing day at Saratoga was probably one of the very few rough weather and juggling races and which ones are you going to keep or which ones are you going to go. You know, I would think people will forget in the future, Seth. I think the first race on closing day was run on a labeled fast racetrack.
Oh, they were all over the place with labeling it on the closing day.
It was one of those days where I think we had 4 conditions, which is a rarity in our sport. 3, 10, 4, Commander Kai is my top pick. This is a sharp barn, 8-1 on the morning line, Ramon Vasquez. A jockey that may fly under the radar screen for our audience, having a terrific meet. Horse has tried Del Mar turf 6 times, only been off the board once, only 1 win, but we are looking at 8-1 in the morning line for the offspring of Twirling Candy. For second, let me turn the page here, it's number 10, Time to Party. Peter Miller's runner. Peter Miller has come back with a vengeance. They're adding blinkers, Flavian Prat, who wrapped up Saratoga outstandingly and had a brilliant, obviously, Pacific Classic day. And for third, Ambivalent. First start in like 17 months. You know my new rules. I don't care. 3, 10, and 4 in the third.
Peter Miller, nice-looking first-time starter yesterday in La Macarena that I liked quite a bit had all kinds of win-early breeding. And as I talked about the horse sitting at I want to say when I first talked with about 25 minutes to the race was double digits. And then I went back to the race again because Saratoga Harness was coming up and I wanted to get them. So I reiterated. And at that point, it was about 7 or 8-1. And subsequently, I read on Twitter, because when I'm in here, that there are multiple tracks going. I didn't see him come out of the gate. But one easily at 4-1. But Rich Eng tweeted, left the gate at about 7 or 8-1 and came under the wire at 4-1. So it was one of those that was a little
one of those
on Twitter. But somebody then subsequently tweeted out, though, that if you had looked at the doubles, you could see the 8-1 probably wasn't going to happen. But
yeah,
a nice-looking first-time starter to maybe pay attention to, La Macarena. Race 4 at Del Mar on Saturday afternoon. Maiden Claimers, they'll go a mile.
8, 7, 2, and 4. Jet fans, I don't know this horse was named after Don Maynard, but Maynard goes out for the lowest tag. And I think that is relevant. I've talked about, dropping in for a tag after maiden special weights. I kind of don't count the maiden special weight races against them. Might be an indicator that those races were far too tough, was non-competitive in them. Now, this runner has run multiple times for 50, 55 most recently, now running for 20. That's a second, to me, significant drop. And this runner makes the third start since January. Mike Smith takes the mount back. I think we're running in the right place here. It's an offspring of Animal Kingdom. Remember, a mile at Del Mar is the full 2 turns. For second, number 7, Dual Threat, goes out for the second start after 30,000 odd claim. I'm throwing the first one out. This is probably the right level. This horse was claimed at Churchill, tried the turf. Now the offspring to Into Mischief gets a mile. And for third, Careless Kitten. I talked often about dropping in for a tag for the first time is a popular angle. The veterans in these races are often considered, well, we already know they're, lose too often. They float up. This horse is 7-2, so doesn't warrant that much attention to me. For me, to be higher than third. 8, 7, 2 in the fourth.
Why don't we do one more before we take
Sure.
our break? Race number 6, maiden special weight runners, and they will travel a quick 5.5.
I think we're going to give the people my thoughts on race 5 first.
Oh, did I skip race 5?
That's okay.
Oh.
That's okay.
I thought I was looking right at me.
And it's funny, as you said we're going to do race 5, and your finger.
I was going
now
one more, and now
I know why you use the mouse pad instead of the finger track.
Yeah.
You're too fast with the finger.
Fifth race, though, is an allowance optional claiming event. They're on the turf at 1 mile.
Yes, 7-6-1 is the condition. Relaxed Artist, my top pick. Second start, United States. Before it came to the United States, ironically, today is Irish Champion Stakes at Leopardstown. This horse broke the maiden at Leopardstown. That was in June of 21. Has had 1 start since then. A good effort sprinting on the turf at Santa Anita in February. Makes the first start since then. Mike Smith gets the call for the offspring of Zoffany, and I would think with that pedigree, and a Gone West on the bottom side, middle distance turf would be good. For second, number 6, goes out for Phil D'Amato, who has been, trending upward. in the second half of the Del Mar meet, makes the first start since an off-the-board beaten favorite in the last start in February. And for third, the rail, number one, Carla Gaines runner, finished second at this level most recently, 7-6-1 in the fifth.
You mentioned the Irish Championship, and I just looked it up to see if they'd moved it to St. Ledger, moved to Sunday as they canceled racing in Britain in honor of the Queen. But even more intriguing to me, I didn't know that was a thing, but she's been around for so long, how would you know? They're debating whether to change the Queen's Plate in Canada, the King's Plate. Who knew? I didn't know it was tied in like that, but she's been there for so long. My whole life, that's what it's been. So,
you know, my favorite part, somebody put on Twitter, she was the reigning queen for 30% of American history.
Well, the news the other night, I think, said she had been queen through, I want to say, 13 presidents. It was like a crazy number that just, and again, our sympathies to the people of Great Britain, and also notable from our side of things sitting in here. She was a fabulous horse person.
Absolutely.
Barbara Livingston tweeted out a great picture a couple of days ago of Angel Cordero wearing the Queen's silks maybe 20 years ago up at Saratoga.
I think it was 30 plus years ago, and here's a funny story. I was in the winter...
Probably was 1990s. Yeah.
I was in the winner's circle. The old day was when they put the lime in the circle on the dirt.
The circle.
And I remember what he said. He got off the horse, and they have a special, or at least then, a helmet came with the silks. And it looked like to me, like it was black velvet on the covering. Remember, the helmets were different in those days. And Cordero mentioned how heavy it was. Like he couldn't, when he took it off, he's like, Jesus. But apparently the helmet came with the silks for Her Majesty. And I'll tell you what, I know that I still have it. I'll never forget this. On the program, it said HMS Majesty.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Which you're just like, well, that's not something I'm going to come across every day. We'll take a quick break.
All right, we'll be back.
I told you, did you see that picture in the summer where they, like 80?
I'm Seth Merrow, and as serious horse players, we know that information is critical when placing a bet. With live streaming of more than 30 tracks, race replays, free past performances, and daily picks from professional handicappers, no one gives you more up-to-the-minute information than Capital OTB. Combine that with the best player awards in New York State, and you have everything a serious horse player needs to be successful.
Win more with Capital OTB.
Winning starts here.
Capital OTB is now streaming live on Roku. The RTN Racing channel on Roku lets you watch OTB TV live through your Roku device or your Amazon Fire Stick, rather than being limited to computers and mobile devices, which means you can now watch OTB live wherever you are. Simply open Roku, scroll to find the RTN channel, then click on OTB TV. OTB TV on Roku. Try it now.
Birdstone is an outside front. They're coming down to the finish. Can Smarty Jones hold on? Here comes Birdstone. Birdstone surges past. Birdstone wins the Belmont Stakes. In front, but here comes Hot Chaparral. Hot Chaparral, the defending champ, to take it to Barbara. These two arch rivals head to head with Joe Hart bearing down on them. It's going to be a three-horse photo finish in the turn. Here's the wire. Photo finish.
Welcome back to the Handicappers Report as we return to the studio for the first Handicappers Report since Saratoga. Bittersweet, I would have to say.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's
A little more bitter than sweet.
right. And I said at the top, it doesn't have the energy. I mean, Saturdays in the autumn used to be fantastic. They literally would carry you after the Saratoga euphoria, but it's so radically different in just like 10 years that it's, and like I said, I haven't done
It
this
is
for...
true. You really looked forward to that Belmont
Oh, my
Championship
goodness.
meet because
Friday in the Forum would come out the rankings of the 10 races,
That's true.
a writer assigned. Now, this is the first time I've done the autumn in 5 years, so it's been this window that it really changed on a dime.
And we still have, not to put down, it's still great racing coming up in New
Yeah.
York, but also we have Keeneland coming up.
Yes.
That'll lead into the Breeders' Cup, and
Yes.
Santa Anita comes back. So there's great racing, but it was different going back not that long ago. All right, race number 6 is Del Mar on Saturday afternoon. As I said earlier, Maiden Special is going 5.5.
You know, and it just surprised me that this late into the calendar, they're still running 5.5. And I always presume that's the horseman kind of telling the racing secretary that I have horses or stuff that I need to get started. I want to start at 5.5. 4, 9, 8. 2 also eligibles in here. The 4 is Speedboat Beach. 5-2 on the morning line. Bob Baffert's runner makes the debut. A lot of the typical workout stuff from Baffert. 58 and change. Not even the bullet. Not even in the top 3, but a nice debut. He's got successive debut works. For Bob Baffert, I would say, and Mike Pegram's horse only cost $200,000 for second. Number 9, Fort Bragg. The other Bob Baffert horse, who's 2-1. The offspring of Tappet, cost 7. Juan Hernandez, who's had a fantastic meet, has the mountain for third. Number 8, Gun Bullet. The offspring of, you guessed it, Gun Runner, cost nearly $500,000. 4, 9, 8. Race going off at approximately 6:45.
Stakes action in race number 7, the Del Mar Juvenile Fillies Turf. We're looking at, obviously, 2-year-old fillies
Yes.
on the turf of the mile.
And, prepping for the Breeders' Cup or finding out if you're good enough to go. 9, 7, 4. Sell the Dream, my top pick. We draw a tough post, outside post, going a mile on the turf at Del Mar. The offspring of Munnings has not been beyond 5.5 furlongs. Debuted on turf at 5, came back at 5.5 on dirt against winners in a stakes race. We'll see if a root of ground, tough post. We're probably going to get better than the 6-1 morning line on number 9, Sell the Dream, my top pick. For second, number 7, Comanche Country, Phil D'Amato's runner. 2 starts in Ireland. Speaking of Leopardstown, but Ireland, and that was by May 15th. Came to the United States and broke the maiden on debut, U.S. debut, as the favorite. Takes on winners in the 4th career start, and for third, Phil D'Amato's other runner, number 4, Excelia, making the 6th career start, which is almost unheard of for a juvenile. All of these were in Europe, all of them sprinting, but we are inside with Ramon Vasquez, 9-7-4 in the juvenile filly turf.
Race 7 for the girls on the turf. Race 8 for the girls on the dirt. It's the Del Mar Debutante at 7 furlongs.
8-5-6 in here. Number 8 is Ice Dancing, a maiden making the 2nd career start. And not to worry, first off, it was unheard of in my youth, but then Neil Drysdale put over Splendid Blended as a maiden about 15 years ago, 14, 15 years ago. And since then, 3 other maidens have done it. I'm hoping Ice Dancing is the 4th since 2008. Flavian Prat takes them out for Richard Mandela's offspring of Frosted. 3rd on debut at 10-1. Now that tells me a lot for Richard Mandela, a very conservative trainer in my opinion, goes to this spot. For second, number 5, Fast and Shiny. Bob Baffert's runner only recorded 61 in the debut victory. And for third, number 6, Home Cooking, 9-5 for Bob Baffert. First time versus winners, 1-2 in the first 2 career starts, 8-5-6.
Let's move on to race number 9, more stakes action. This is the John C. Mabie Grade 2 event. They will be traveling 1.125 on the turf.
1-3-5, going to Vegas. We certainly hope so on December 3rd. Phil D'Amato's runner has made 1 start since March. That was a tough second place finish in the Gamely. For second, number 6, Avenue de France, goes out for Leo Powell. Won a restricted stakes race early in the Del Mar meet, and then most recently, behind Glowing Global, finished second in the Yellow Ribbon. And for third, number 5, Going Global, 4-5. This horse is almost always odds on. The race certainly goes through here, 1-3-5.
Race number 10, we're looking at $35,000 to $40,000 claimers. The distance, 6 furlongs.
Big field in here, 11. 8-3-1 for me, and number 8 is As Matter of Fact. Jonathan Wong's runner. Throw out the Oceanside, the opening day stakes race. That was a mile. This will be the first chance since winning up in Pleasanton. Remember, that's the fair circuit, part of the fair circuit in Southern California. But I think this horse, who was won at Fresno, the other fair, is on the outside. I think it's going to be sharp in here, running for a tag for the first time. Number 8, as a matter of fact. For second, Moose Mitchell. First off the claim for Peter Miller, who's a 20% trainer in that category. And for third, number 1, Stormy Pattern goes out, shortens up after back-to-back mile races. 8-3-1.
And we will wrap things up 6:20 local time. That means 7, 8, 9, 18 our time. Race number 11 at Del Mar. Maiden Special is going a mile on the grass.
385 Velvet is my top pick. Now, there's another runner off for a year and a couple months for Richard Mandela, and has come back and has run multiple races. And the buyer speed figures are better than Velvet has ever done before. American Pharaoh, to me, as a turf influence, is outstanding. For second, number 8, Ruthless But Kind. Big price in here, 20-1 on the morning line, was nearly 25-1 on debut. For third, number 5, going out for Patty Gallagher. On debut, United States debut in the first race since November. Good enough to improve. 385 in the finale.
And let me just toss out there, as I said, that's going to go off at a little after 9 o'clock. Let me note that today we are open a little bit later here at the Clubhouse Racebook until about 8:45, I believe it is tonight, so you can catch most of this Del Mar action.
Absolutely.
Also today, it's a Fan Appreciation Day. We had nice interaction via Saratoga playing and Del Mar playing from all you folks over the summer, so we wanted to say thank you to you. First 50 folks through the door at the Clubhouse Racebook today get a $2 voucher. There'll also be food and a contest. Lots of fun here at the Clubhouse Racebook today. Fan Appreciation Day, 711 Central Avenue in Albany. Let's take a break. When we come back, Kentucky Downs. Stay tuned.
What if there was a way to become a better horse player? To have a better knowledge of the game? To be more successful? What if there were a way to take what you've learned, what you know, and make better decisions, better choices? In horse racing, knowledge is a powerful tool. Race results and replays, past performances and live streaming, wagering from all your digital devices. Capital OTB. Become a better horse player.
Capital OTB is now streaming live on Roku. The RTN Racing channel on Roku lets you watch OTB TV live through your Roku device or your Amazon Fire Stick, rather than being limited to computers and mobile devices, which means you can now watch OTB live wherever you are. Simply open Roku, scroll to find the RTN channel, then click on OTB TV. OTB TV on Roku. Try it now.
Come on.
I want sales reports on my desk by Monday.
Whoops. My bad.
Love racing? RTN brings you every live simulcast on your home television, plus live video streaming and race replays on your PC and mobile devices. To order, visit rtn.tv. RTN, a breed apart.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, the Handicappers Report. Now time to turn our attention to the Franklin, Kentucky area. I think this is the first time I've ever, for the network, because it's been about the last 5 or 6 years where Kentucky Downs has become a national big-time player. And in the opener, 2-year-olds, maiden special weights, going a mile.
5'9", 14 and 2. The 14's too deep on the AEs. If that one doesn't get in, look at the 6. But I put Route Runner on top. It's a gun runner trainee from Steve Asmussen. Didn't get it done in debut, but it's by Gun Runner. Asmussen horses tend to improve in the second start. This one had a sibling called Carriaquina that was 10th in debut and then won in the second career start. So we'll see if this one can live up to that form shown by the older sibling. Now, the question mark, like a lot of horses down at Kentucky, and Kentucky, it's a track where you have to play around, and you'll see my picks today I did in a number of races, because it's unpredictable on a number of levels, like this horse that has had one start on the dirt so far. But then you look up at the top of the page, why would they try a mile on the turf? Oh, 150,000. That's why. And so these horses are showing up with owners and trainers who are saying it's just too much money not to take the shot. So Route Runner with the breeding and the trainer, I'll put that one on top. Second spot, Father Delay, goes out for Michael Dubb and Company, trained by Mike Maker, who does very, very well down at Kentucky Downs. Tyler Gaffleone, this just goes to show you how tough that Saratoga colony is. He did well, but he doesn't put up the numbers up there that he puts in down in Kentucky. Gets down to Kentucky Downs, 23% down there, and we know what he does at Churchill. So on board here for Mike Maker. This one didn't show a lot in the debut. It was on the dirt, but now tries the turf and blinkers for Mike Maker. I'll put that one in the mix at 6-1. And then again, a couple deep on the AE list is the Bookkeeper. I thought the first two, this one does have some turf experience. I thought the first two were okay, showed a little bit of improvement. So again, if that one does sneak in, we will use the 14. But if it doesn't, the 2 and the 6 are alternatives. In the opener, 5, 9, 14, and 2.
Just a couple quick things. We're going to go past the 10 o'clock hour with the Handicappers Report. And I after seeing my beloved Rams play on opening night, I'm rather convinced they won't be the Super Bowl champions. How this is leading into the Handicappers Report is I fully expect to make a run to Kentucky Downs next year after Saratoga, because I'm going to have a couple of free days, and Keeneland is the box check off for me in a couple of weeks.
You haven't been to Keeneland?
Never been to Keeneland.
Nice.
Been to Churchill Downs a couple times, but never to Keeneland.
Well, I've never been to Churchill.
So it's gonna. I've seen Breeders' Cup and Derby at Churchill, so but I'm gonna make that, and I think next year, I if everybody stays healthy in my family and things, it's gonna be, right after the meet, I'm gonna go down. I gotta check this out.
Oh, it looks like a lot of fun.
It looks like a lot, and I will say this: on a bright sunny day, it looks like a country fair, but they're running $1 million races, and that's not a combination you see very often. So that was just thinking about that because we were talking about it a little. It just wasn't practical with me being out of town yesterday. But I think next year, it's the track to get checked
I will
off.
toss out there, not to promote my own thing, but you mentioned the Rams are yours,
Mine,
and
yeah.
the Jets are mine, and I had a little discussion during it. But if you go to TDN, I had a fun, I was on the Better Things podcast with Joe Bianca, and it's right on the front page today of the TDN. We recorded a couple days ago, and just a discussion about handicapping, just some general discussion. But I bring it up in the Jets because he's a Jets fan too, so part of the conversation
was the Jets.
A little bit lamenting the Jets there as well, but you can check that out over
I
at
hope
TDN.
For his sake, and we talked about Super Bowl III, I hope he's north of 55 years old.
No, that's what I said.
Oh,
I said,
you get
I said,
all the
at least
worst
I
of it.
have the Jets.
That moment.
And,
That
when I was
moment.
a kid, I was a quarterback, so I tied into Joe Namath, and at least I have that
Sad.
going for me. But,
On to the second, staying at a mile. First, I think 5 are at a mile. 3-year-olds and up, Maiden Special weight.
9, 12, 4, and 2, bargaining power on top. Frosted first-time starters, 62 first-time starters this year, 8 wins, 7 seconds, 5 thirds. Those are solid numbers, but of those 8 wins, only one of them was on turf. So the Dams' 2 wins were on dirt. This is the first fall, so that's all we could find. But it is Chad, it is Klarovich. First-time starter from that team is always going to attract my attention, and Tyler Gaffleone jumps on board. So I thought there was a little win early, not necessarily turf, but with this team and the 12-1 price, I'll tilt in that direction. Second slot, What a Dude. It's the other Chad Brown horse. This one with some experience up at Saratoga, running a close-up second on the turf. But, you know, why did they debut for the $75,000 tag? So we'll see if this one can build on what looks like a promising debut, but obviously moving up class-wise. Stroke of Midnight in the third spot, also put in an okay debut on the turf. This one at Ellis going short, now it stretches out to the mile, but again, off the debut effort. Another one at 12-1 that I think could be very live in here with a little bit of a closing kick coming down that very long stretch in the second at Kentucky Downs. 9, 12, 4, and 2.
On to the third, staying with the early 1 mile theme, 3-year-old and up, Phillies and Mary's allowance.
I have a 10, 2, 11, and 4. I will note both of the first 2 horses on the A list, the 13 and the 14, I think are both very playable should they sneak in. So I mentioned the 13 and the 14, particularly if one of my other ones scratches and they replace one of those. The 13 and the 14 are interesting. 12-1 for Sister Nell on top. Irod Ortiz riding for Todd Pletcher. I thought this horse could be intriguing. It's Todd Pletcher, it's Irod Ortiz. The debut on the turf was a win down at Gulfstream. Now, the number was a little bit light, but it was last December. Came back in January on the synthetic, went the other way, but it was on the synthetic. Now a little bit of a layoff, and these are the kind I talked about occasionally. Showed some talent early on, a couple of starts, lightly raced, now comes back off a layoff. I think there's the potential here to come back improved for a potent jockey and trainer, and at a very good price. So Sister Nell on top, Final Bell in the second spot. The Nell Bell exacta we're hoping for, the Bill Mott trainee coming in off a couple of starts at Ellis on the turf and had an improved effort last time. You look down the page, there are a couple of numbers that are really 2 or 3 numbers overall that are fit very, very nicely with this group. Joel Rosario scheduled to ride. I think Final Bell very playable in here. And then Golden Sights on the outside, towards the outside. Switched to the turf last time and showed a little bit of life for Brad Cox. So I think might have found a home on the turf. Will that translate to this turf, which is incredibly unique? We'll find out a little more today. But Flojo on board. Our friends at West Point have Lady Traveler. I didn't use that one for Steve Asmussen, but do want to note that they're in there as well. But for me, 10, 2, 11, and 4. And as I say, the 13 and the 14 could also be interesting if they draw in.
West Point on their way to 2 million. 2,000. On to the fourth race. 3-year-old and up. Fillies and Mares, Maiden Special Weights, going a mile.
7, 8, 9, and 4. Harrington Rocket on top for Chad Brown. Debuted last October, ran an okay fourth in there, and then came back. And again, one of those that came back maybe a little bit improved and just missed up at Belmont for the 75 tag. Then went up to Saratoga, got back into Maiden Special Company, and I thought ran well. The buyer number went up. I think this horse's third start back, Gaffleone on board, is maybe primed for a good effort in here today. 8-1 for the Juddmonte Bill Mott runner with Jose Ortiz on board. Arrow Blue, the 8 horse, comes in off a debut effort at Ellis that, was okay. Went way to the back of the pack and had to make, one of those freight train type of moves late and came up short, as often happens with those kind of come from the clouds efforts. So I'll look for that one to be an experience builder and a little bit of an education, and we'll get a better effort today. And Wings Lake Eagles in the third spot. Another one that tends to sit back and make a late run for Bill Mott. Joe Rosario on board. Off the latest, I thought that horse was playable. Really, the last two. Paired a couple of numbers together, but given what we're seeing in the rest of this field, probably a pretty good fit in here. So for me, in the fourth, 7, 8, 9, and 4.
Now we're up to the fifth race, and I was thinking, Seth, not counting Breeders' Cup races, they're not a track's races, basically. Has any track ever run 3 $1 million races of their own on a card ever, anywhere, besides maybe Japan or Hong Kong?
Well, you're talking outside the Breeders' Cup, obviously.
Right, because those are Breeders' Cup races. They're not the track.
That's a good question.
I was thinking,
can't think
maybe has anybody ever run 2 of their own races on a card? I was trying to think, was the Sword Dancer ever $1 million run on Travers Day?
I'd say 2 is possible, but
I don't think 3. So
Three
here we
is
go. $1 million, 3-year-olds and up. The WinStar Mint million, right?
Yep.
That makes sense.
And the Mint is their slots parlor. And that's where they come up with $1 million. I have a 10, 4, 5, and 2. I'm going to root for West Point to get it done with Cavalry Charge. I've talked about it a few times already. This is a really unique course. And admittedly, there are a few horses in here with experience over it, good experience. Cavalry Charge is one of those. We'll see. Came up to Kentucky Downs from Saratoga last year and won very nicely. Did it at 4-1, though, so had a little bit of oomph, obviously, on the page last year that is going to be maybe lacking this year. Comes in off a 5th in the Arlington Million, but with the win over the track and does have a little bit of, kind of stalk and pounce ability, perhaps. I thought Cavalry Charge from the outside could be intriguing in here at a price. So I'll tilt in that direction. Some like it hot brown, won nicely up at Saratoga last time in an off-the-turfer, but most of the career has been on the turf, including a very good second in this very race last year. So I thought some like it hot brown may wind up. Be interested to see where the betting public goes, because there are a couple in here I think you can make pretty solid cases for. But with the nice race last year, the win last time, albeit off the turf, some like it hot brown comes in with some things to like. And then Kentucky Ghost in the third spot, Vicky Oliver trainee, comes out of a try in the United Nations that was 7th place, but it was an okay 7th place. Nice win, 2 back. But overall, a couple of 2nd place finishes on this track that I was kind of hanging my hat on as well. Comes in with a nice workout. I think it's a fun race. A tone from Mike Maker may wind up being the one to beat with Gaffleone on board. Pixelate was the winner of this race last year. I have that one down in the 4th spot. It's, again, fun race. I have a 10, 4, 5, and 2.
You know what I think would be? It's like, I wish NBC was there for like a 90-minute show with the 3 $1 million races. I know $1 million isn't nearly what it was in '84, but I just think it still carries a cachet. The economics is different, but I think you could do a race, a 90-minute program, 3 consecutive $1 million races in that environment.
I would say, given it's an all-turf course, NBC probably is reluctant to rely on the weather to work out for them. Because I think if it was a downpour, I think these guys would just shift to Monday or whatever. So they've got it out, but the network would leave them hanging a little bit.
Yeah, I didn't think about that. On to the 6th on a 12-race card, breaking up Millionaires Row, or expensive race. 3 rolls it up. Optionals 62, 2X, mile, and 5/16.
210, 6, and 9. I put Slickback on top for Brad Cox. I'm going to be interested to see if this morning line holds up. I think this horse will take some action. They clearly felt this horse had some promise. They went in the Virginia Derby, then the Jockey Club Derby last year, and ran decently. The last couple of races this year, back in May and July, seem to be lacking. Maybe it's possible this horse hasn't come back as a 4-year-old as well as we saw a little bit earlier in the career. But again, given what we saw earlier in the career, Florence Giroux, Brad Cox, I'll put Slickback on top. Mud Pie in the 2nd spot, Tyler Gaffleone on board. Comes out of a 5th place finish most recently up at Saratoga. But again, you go down the page and there are some races that certainly recommend this horse, including a 2-for-2 record right here at Kentucky Downs. So maybe a little bit of a horse for a course there. And then in the 3rd spot, I'm going to go with Pikachu. Last time, nice win over at Ellis on the dirt. And this one, has bounced back and forth. Turf, synthetic, some dirt starts as well. But the turf starts are pretty good. And the horse seems to be in some good form off that try at Ellis last time, which I think bodes well for this afternoon. So we're prices all around. I'll do a little exacta box. We'll talk about it this afternoon when we're in for OTB Live. But I have a 210, 6, and 9.
All right, take a quick break. When we come back, second half of today's brilliant action at Kentucky Downs.
Is the Capital Region's new home for racing and sports. 25,000 square feet of Vegas-style action with live wagering on the best horse racing from around the world. 260 flat-screen televisions and state-of-the-art wagering terminals. So don't miss out. The fun is only minutes away at 711 Central Avenue, Albany, just off exit 5 of I-90. And don't forget, if you can't make it to the clubhouse, you can always wager online 24/7 at capitalotb.com.
Capital OTB is now streaming live on Roku. The RTN Racing channel on Roku lets you watch OTB TV live through your Roku device or your Amazon Fire Stick, rather than being limited to computers and mobile devices, which means you can now watch OTB live wherever you are. Simply open Roku, scroll to find the RTN channel, then click on OTB TV. OTB TV on Roku. Try it now.
No matter where in the world you are, the excitement of wagering on horse racing is just a click away. You'll get live streaming, past performances, race replays, our virtual tote board, analysis and selections from professional handicappers, a simple, safe, and secure wagering platform, and best of all, you get track prices. CapitalOTBBet.com. Bet any place, anytime at CapitalOTBBet.com. And be sure to download our new mobile app from the iTunes Store or Google Play.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Before we get to the stakes action at Kentucky Downs, we have a 2-year-old filly, maiden special weights, going 6.
This is a fun race. I'm going to go 1, 7, 9, and 5. I'll put acting on top for Mark Cassie. There's some nice win early siblings. A sibling called Top Gun Girl, second in debut, won the second start. Sibling called Kraft Woods, second in debut, won the second start. This one, fourth in debut. We'll see if it can live up to the older siblings. Mendelssohn, so far this year, 32 first-time starters, 6 wins, 3 seconds, 4 thirds. Of that group, there were 4 turf runners, a couple of wins and a couple of thirds amongst the turf winners in that group we talked about. So I'm going to put this one on top to show some improvement off a debut on the synthetic down at Gulfstream that I'm hoping gave this horse some education, and I'm hoping the move over to the turf will prove beneficial. Second spot, Lady Baron, 12-1. Jimmy Creed. I love Jimmy Creed as a sire of win early types. 45 first-time starters this year, 5 wins, 9 seconds, 4 thirds. And in that group of the 5, 9, and 4, there were a couple of turf tries and a couple of turf winners. So I thought that was notable for the offspring of Jimmy Creed, trained by Brendan Walsh. Nice string of workouts. Tyler Gaffleone on board. Again, a nice 12-1 price. And then Gold Blooded. Similar scenario by Golden Sense. It's Golden Sense this year. Not doing as well on the win end, but still 66 first-time starters. Only 4 wins, but 11 seconds and 6 thirds. And again, in that group of 4, 11, and 6, there were 3 starters on the turf, a couple of seconds and a third. So I thought there was a little bit there. There's a sibling called Landing Zone that ran second, then third, then second, then won. So again, a little bit of win early there from the Rusty Arnold runner, James Graham on board, and another price. So, and again, down there, it's just because it is such a quirky course, some horses are going to take to it, some aren't. It's such a short meet, you don't know. You can look back in some of these races as I have and see in previous seasons what they've done, but you're not going to get that 2 or 3 starts at the meet that give you a certainty on that aspect. So you're rolling the dice in a lot of these races, and this is another one where I think that is the case. And so some prices in the mix: 1, 7, 9, and 5.
Race A kicks off the 50-cent pick 5 all stakes, 14% takeout. Up first, $750,000. Fillies and Mares, the Kentucky Down Ladies Turf at a mile.
I'm going to go with Dalika, but man, I went back and forth on Dalika. But she looked so good last time in the Beverly D. You go back to last year, she ran second in this race. In 2020, she won the One Dreamer stake here and ran second most of the way. She's an up-front runner. That's where she does her best. But again, as in that One Dreamer, she can kind of stalk and pounce. And coming out of the Beverly D, I'll tilt in that direction. But again, boy, this is another tough race. Hendy Woods, 1 for 1 on this track, including my top pick, Dalika, won the One Dreamer 2020. This one won the One Dreamer here at Kentucky Downs last year, so has some form over the track, comes in off a stakes win over at Indiana last time. So in good form, and the lifetime best buyer figure was the win at Kentucky Downs. And then Princess Grace in the third slot, finished just behind Dalika last time. Another one with some early speed. So we'll see. Hopefully these two don't knock each other out. They didn't in the Beverly D. We'll see if they can go around the track and maybe be right there at the end in this event. Lady Spitespear. Lady Spitespear goes out for Roger Atfield, and I looked at Lady Spitespear and debated off of the last one, maybe putting that one on top, last couple actually. But Emma Jane Wilson scheduled to come in for the ride, and I just wonder, with this course, do you want kind of the novice rider? She is not a novice by any means. The novice on this track this season coming in, and I just tilted a little bit in the other direction because of that. She's super talented, obviously, as we see year in and year out north of the border, but I just think this is a little bit different. I have it 1, 3, 8, and 4.
Race number 9 brings us our second $1 million race of the day. 3-year-olds and up, the Fanduel Turf Sprint at 6.
12, 5, 9, and 10. I thought the 8 Brand was also playable, but I put Arrest Me Red on top. I just couldn't get past, it's a Wesley Ward Turf Sprinter. And the fact that this one ran a close-up second to Casa Creed last time, and then Casa Creed looked so good for our friend Lee Einseidler in the 4-star Dave up at Saratoga. That performance just seemed to flatter what we saw 2 back in the Jaipur. So I'll put Arrest Me Red on top. Second slot, going to take a look at Arzak. Comes out of a close-up 4th in the Troy at Saratoga, but before that it had been running well up at Woodbine for Mike Trombetta, and I'm kind of going more to those Woodbine races. Although, as I say, the race in the Troy was not bad. To be less than a length behind Golden Pal, nothing wrong with that. So we'll put that one in the mix. And Thin White Duke, who ran 3rd there, kind of flattered the performance a few days ago up at Saratoga. And then Front Run the Fed in the 3rd spot. 5th behind Casa Creed in the aforementioned 4-star Dave. Nice win at Colonial just before that, though, but typically fires an effort that I think is going to fit nicely in here today. So in the 9th, 12, 5, 9, and 10.
Keeping the ball rolling in $1 million races, 3-year-olds and up, and 1.5 miles in the Kentucky Turf Cup.
This one I am going to go with a horse that I really think is a little bit of a horse for a course potentially here. I went 4, 8, 3, and 6. Arklow. 4 tries at Kentucky Downs, a very quirky course. Couple of wins, couple of seconds. Won the Kentucky Turf Cup 2 years ago. Close-up second last time. I'm going to put Arklow on top, again, on the horse for a course type of an angle, and has performed well in this very race. Gufo in the 2nd spot. Looked fabulous in the Sword Dancer last time. Big closing kick, got up. Subsequently, I talked to a lot of people who needed Mirror Mission and were devastated coming down the stretch by the big run by Gufo, but it was a very nice performance, doubling up in the Sword Dancer the last couple of years. But it's a little bit of a quick turnaround, and even Christophe Clement has been quoted as admitting that. But there's $1 million up for grabs. No knock them taking the shot. We shall see. Temple in the 3rd spot off a nice try in the United Nations last time, and I think could be a player looking at that effort, and trained by Mike Maker, who does very, very well down at Kentucky Downs. For me, in the Turf Cup, 4, 8, 3, and 6.
On to the 11th, 3-year-olds and up, fillies and mares. The Mint Ladies Sprint, $600K on the line as they race 6.5.
I'm going to take a little shot against the favorite Campanelle, because you look at the record of Campanelle comes out and runs Campanelle best. It's Campanelle. But, the horse, you look at the race in October at Keeneland, which was over a soft turf course. I think there may be some give in the course because they are predicting maybe a little bit of rain early today there. So I took a little bit of a shot with Toby's Heart. I have it 6, 10, 5, and 11. Toby's Heart has one start over this track, and it was a win in a stakes race last year. Pretty good looking win. So with the experience over the track, coming in off an okay try last time at Ellis Park, just a bona fide quality turf sprinter throughout the career. I'll look for that one. Maybe get up for the upset. Campanelle in the 2nd spot, as they say. The Wesley Ward runner coming over after a try at Royal Ascot, pretty good try, is going to be the one to beat. And then Creative Credit in the 3rd spot. Lots of early speed. Make Creative Credit very dangerous in the 11th. I have it 6, 10, 5, and 11.
And wrapping up the card, we're going to go 6.5 furlongs for $600,000 again. 3-year-olds in the Franklin Simpson.
6, 7, 13, and 5. 13 is an AE, but first one on the AE, so wouldn't be totally out of the question to see that one get in. But Big Invasion, Dean Reeves, owner Dean Reeves, had a really good Saratoga. This was one of the horses that helped make that, winning the Quick Call and the Mahoney, doing both of those in very, very impressive fashion. I just think Big Invasion is a really special turf sprinter. So I'll put that one on top. Run Curtis Run in the 2nd spot, was behind Big Invasion in the Quick Call last time. Still relatively lightly raced with only the 8 starts. It's Mike Maker, so makes some sense. And then we go out to, again, the first horse on the AE list, Speaking of lightly raced, only 4 starts so far for Evan Singh, and that includes a couple of wins in those 4 starts, including last time right up at Saratoga in a race that I think bodes well for this afternoon. So in the finale, 6-7, 13, and 5.
And I guess the question many of us have, will it be a big invasion versus Golden Pal moment?
I think that is probably setting up, right?
Well, you would think that, I think it's good that Big Invasion's running today. I mean, you're not going to go to this shelf on September 10th, are you, and wrap up a season, and there's only one more realistic race for a horse this good that's taking on a $600,000 race today after winning 2 spot turf sprints. I mean, it's...
And the question was, and after the wins up at Saratoga, they were always starting to ask it, as a 3-year-old, does he go on and face the older in those kind of situations? He's restricted again age-wise today, but boy, it just looks so good. I think you got to take the shot. It seems like.
You get to run for 7 figures at a turf, right? It's got to be $1 million race. So it's like you're just hoping it comes because that people have knocks about the Breeders' Cup, but I'm old enough to remember that there was such divisions in this country. It's the reason that Landalusi and Princess Rooney didn't run against each other. Wayne had such trouble with Terlingua when he brought her east because Belmont was the fall championship meet, and he thought he had to bring Terlingua to the east to get notoriety. And there was far more riders in the 70s on the East Coast. And then after that disaster, he said never again. He said with Landalusi, I'm not going east. I'm not chasing Princess Rooney, who was a great 2-year-old also. But the Breeders' Cup kind of ended that. You can be provincial for 8 months a year, but eventually you gotta meet or go on the shelf. And that's the one thing I didn't enjoy about the QE2. That's kind of taken on a 3-year-old filly de facto Breeders' Cup race. I don't want to take on the olders.
Yeah.
That just wrap it up. And that's what I never liked about horse racing before was, the best not running against the best, and the Euros have never had problems with the 3-year-old fillies taking on colts or the olders. So we'll see. But that would be great because the turf sprint division, which is great for everyday cards, doesn't really capture a lot of imagination, although Belvoir Bay made me in the black probably for the rest of my career in the turf sprint and the Breeders' Cup. Big Invasion versus, I don't think it'd get much coverage in the race, but we would be like, this is a massive showdown, Golden Pal versus
Talk about Europe. They'll put the 2-year-olds in against.
They have
which is unthinkable. Here.
Right, yeah, they have it's usually about now, isn't it? It's like very lucrative. It's like 2-year-olds and up, which is obviously a condition you don't see in the United States. But you might not remember this, but when Devil's Bag was great in 1983, the summer and fall, and Sewell Gold was, the best, evolving. They once said, well, let's have a match race at a mile. And I remember looking up the weights. Devil's Bag would have got in at 99 pounds. They would have had to have gotten Shoemaker to take on the 3-year-old at a mile. But that wraps it up. Kentucky Downs, a great day. 3 $1 million races. I cannot think the last time a track had its own races, had 3 $1 million races on the card. Heck, if I'm wrong. I was thinking, maybe in Japan or in Hong Kong, but 3, that's like a tipping point.
Yeah, the Hong Kong international races, I would think that's possible. But
so we'll, in the United States, though, I can't think of any place where they've run 3 of them. But they are today in Franklin, Kentucky, near the Tennessee border. There will be 3 $1 million races, a couple more days racing of Del Mar. Have a great Saturday. It's a beautiful autumn day. I'm going. He's staying. Up next, Racing Across America. All right.
You're watching OTB TV, a service of Capital Off Track Betting.